He's back!
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a minute, got busy with school and life, but I'm back. And for today's video, we are going to be going through all the 2025 movies I've seen and ranking them. I made this same video last year, and by complete coincidence, last year I watched 29 films that came out in 2024, and this year I watched 29 films that came out in 2025. So crazy, but without further ado, let's get into it. Number 29 was a Minecraft movie, which was the meme movie of the year. And it definitely wasn't the worst movie that came out this year, but of the movies that I saw, it was. This was mainly because I feel that the source material of Minecraft has so much potential to make a sick sci-fi film. And this was just trash. It was trash. I mean, there were some funny moments with the chicken jockey or whatever, and it became, this cultural phenomenon, but it was just not a good film. And it's really disappointing because I love Minecraft and I think that it's so cool what they could do with it, and it just was a fail. I think it's probably too far gone at this point, but I have hope that maybe one day somebody revisits Minecraft as a potential film. 28 is Friendship. I mean, I don't even know what in the world this movie even is. It's from the production studio company, whatever, A24. So you kind of expect a little bit of wackiness coming into it. But this is just weird, dude. Tim Robinson is a really hilarious guy. So I actually laughed quite a bit during this. But looking back on it, I just did not really enjoy this movie. 27 is Fight or Flight, starring Josh Hartnett. This one had some pretty gory action scenes. It was good action, but besides that, plot, dialogue, storyline wasn't all there. It reminded me a lot of Bullet Train, but for planes. But I was a big fan of Bullet Train. I think that's an overhated film, underrated, starring Brad Pitt a few years back. But this was just an action film. 26, we have Him. Now, I will say this was one of my most anticipated watches, and I was left the theaters extremely disappointed. The acting was pretty solid, and one thing I really did appreciate was that Tyreek Withers actually knew how to throw a football. So many of these actors, when they do like sports movies, are just they're the worst athletes you've ever seen in their life, and that probably comes from them being lifelong theater kids. No disrespect, but Tyreek Withers actually was a walk on at FSU, but he knows how to throw a football, so it actually looks natural and it was believable. So that was a good thing. And I actually enjoyed the last scene, the last act. But in terms of, it was a confusing. I just didn't really know what was going on, what was real, what was hallucination, which I get from a directorial standpoint. But I just think it had so much more potential than what actually was on the screen. It was just one of the movies of all time. So moving on, number 25, we have Eden. This is starring a bunch of people. Jude Law, which I enjoyed his performance in The Order from last year's video. Go check out my last year video if you haven't already. I enjoyed that a lot. So, I mean, he did pretty good in this movie. Um, and if you ignore Sydney Sweeney's awful German accent, which is basically like half British, she actually turns in one of the better performances I've seen from her. It's just her accent. She's trying to be German, and just it's not. It's not. But yeah, I didn't love this. The fact that it is based on a true story is insane, though. And this was only a 2 hour film, but it felt way longer than that. Vanessa Kirby was pretty good in this as well. First time I saw her was in Fantastic Four this year, and two pretty good performances from her so far. And then it also starred Anna de Armas, who I just don't think is that good of an actress. I haven't seen that much of her filmography, but I just don't think she's one of the better actresses. 24, we have The Amateur starring Rami Malek. I think Malek turned in a good performance. It was a decent storyline. Just I feel like the execution wasn't perfect. I also thought that this is a big critique I have. Trailers. The trailers spoiled so much of this movie, and trailers I think today they give away way too much of the film. But this in particular, like I knew basically everything that was going on because I watched the trailer. And also, I thought the middle of this movie felt a little clunky and too long. But this was, I enjoyed it. I think we're moving into the more enjoyable watches. All of these movies moving forward are at least have some redeeming qualities. Number 23, we have Ballerina, also starring Anna de Armas. This was also a huge disappointment for me. Not that it was a horrible movie by any stretch, but I was just so anticipated for it because the John Wick films are some of my favorite ever. And John Wick 4 was so good. it left off on such a high note, that this just was as the next step in that these movies that just wasn't there. And obviously, it has some great action, like every John Wick film, and the vibes, the cinematography are still great, and it feels like a John Wick film. But just I have some issues with the plot. I thought the main villain slash organization was very murky, not a lot of not very well explained. Um, are they under the high table? Are they just like a killer cult? They didn't really get into that. And again, Ana de Armas is not very believable here as this assassin. I'm sorry, she just isn't. And there's not a lot of Keanu in this, but it was just enough for the trailer to not be lying about his involvement in the film. And I did think he was, awesome as John Wick, as he always is. And also, this was Lance Reddick's The Legend's last ever filming, which tells you how long ago they filmed it because he's passed away a few years. But RIP to a legend. If you know from The Wire, he's just a phenomenal actor. 22, we have Materialists. Now, this movie, I think the cinematography and the way the camera work in this is elite. I really like the vibe and feel of this movie. And it's not bad. It's just a rom-com that doesn't have a great romance or a ton of comedy, which is kind of like, it's a starring Dakota Johnson's Chris Evans and Pedro Pascal. And I think Chris Evans has a lot of acting chops. I just think he is the worst at picking movies. Obviously, everyone knows him for Captain America, but I just think he could do a lot more than he does. And obviously, Pedro Pascal is in literally everything these days. Number 21, The Running Man, starring Glenn Powell. I think Glenn Powell is a superstar. I think, obviously, my main critique of him would be the range in the movies he does, but he's super charismatic, and he's very charismatic in this. This also, Coleman Domingo, fantastic actor. He is so good in this. The pacing, I would say, I know it's from Edgar Wright. He does a lot of action movies with some fast pacing, but I felt this was weird at times and felt very rushed. It's obviously themed around like a TV show. The Running Man was a TV show competition, and I actually feel like this source would be better as a TV show. I also didn't love the ending nor the beginning. I felt that both were a bit cheesy and almost felt a little forced. I will say Daniel Ezra, a very underrated performance. If you know him from All American, that's all I knew him from. And then he turned in at what I thought was a really good performance in this. This is also based on the Stephen King novel, which I guess this was just the year of the Stephen King novel, because you have The Running Man, The Long Walk, and Life of Chuck, that's 3 in 1. That's crazy. Number 20, we have the highly rated Black Bag. This was very highly reviewed. I thought it was okay. I love a good spy movie, so it was an enjoyable watch for sure. And it reminded me a bit of Knives Out in the end, with laying everything out on the table, which I enjoyed. And it reminded me also of The Amateur a little bit in terms of a spy who loves his wife, or not a spy for The Amateur, but you get the point. I just didn't get super attached to the characters or the plot in this. Number 19. Now, please don't come for me, but we have Weapons at 19. I know this was a super highly regarded horror film, and I just felt that it was super overhyped. I'm not going to lie. I really like Josh Brolin as an actor. I think he turns in a really good performance here, and I like how it's shot in puzzle pieces kind of segments. It reminds me of Christopher Nolan's Memento in that. I just did not get attached to any of the characters, and I had such high expectations. I really thought I was going to be super scared going into it, the way people were talking about it. There were only like 2 jump scares that got me. And I mean, it's an interesting plot. It's not what everyone was describing it as, in my opinion. Number 18, we have Wake Up, Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery, the third in the Knives Out film franchise. This was definitely better than the second one, not better than the first. I enjoy these movies, and I think they should keep making them. A star-studded cast surrounded around a Benoit Blanc murder mystery. The best part, in my opinion, always end where Benoit Blanc lays everything out for you and connects all the puzzle pieces. I love when that happens. And I love a good murder mystery. I just think that this also is getting a little bit too much love. I'm on Twitter a lot, or X, whatever they call it, and this was getting super hyped up on there. But it just wasn't all that special to me, especially Josh O'Connor's performance. I know he's kind of a lot of people's sweethearts right now if you're on social media. I just didn't love it. This is a year of Josh Brolin, apparently. We have Stephen King and Josh Brolin, because he's in this, Weapons, and The Running Man. So he had a very busy plate this past year. Number 17, we have Splitsville. Continuing my year of trend, we have the year of the Dakota Johnson rom-com. This is the better one for sure. This was genuinely funny. It was actually hilarious. I was laughing quite a bit. And while it definitely is a good watch, everyone except for the character of Carrie is in this movie is like the worst person ever, which kind of makes me not like it as much as I wanted to, considering how much I was laughing. I hate the character Ashley, who's played by Adria Arjona, who's in Hitman from last year. I just hate her character so much. And I will say I like the pacing of this movie. And like I said, there were some very funny scenes with great writing. It's a fun time. It's not a super deep movie where you want to like take the message to heart or anything, but it was very funny. And this was the better Dakota Johnson rom-com of 2025. Number 16. We're getting now I feel like we've crossed the threshold into, I guess, with Splitsville and Wake Up Dead Man, but these are like I thoroughly enjoyed these movies. I would recommend them as good watches. 16, we have Eternity, starring Elizabeth Olsen and Miles Teller. Miles Teller, I thought, was great in this. Joan, Elizabeth Olsen's character, she really faces an impossible decision here. So I don't know exactly how I feel about the end of the movie. Obviously, I'm not going to give any spoilers in this video, but I don't know how I feel about the end of the movie. It's a great concept though. And also, I would say it kind of felt a bit long at times, almost like an eternity. No, I'm just joking. But
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I did think it was a little long, and it had some pretty funny moments as well, especially starring Divine Joy Randolph. I thought she was hilarious. 15, we have The Life of Chuck. This was a very hard movie for me to rank. It's an anthology film based on the novel by Stephen King, like I mentioned. And what can I say? It contains multitudes if you've seen it. I don't have any real criticisms of it, and I enjoyed it thoroughly, and I valued the message. And it was very well made. It starred some great actors, and acting as well. I could definitely see the argument for it being ranked higher on this list, but I just don't know. I guess I'm contradicting myself, like the Walt Whitman quote. You know what I mean? Number 14, we have The Housemaid, starring Amanda Seyfried and Sydney Sweeney. Seyfried just acted circles around Sydney Sweeney, especially for the beginning of this movie. Sweeney got her act together at the end and turned in a decent performance, but Seyfried was very good. Brendan Sklenar plays a great male manipulator in this. This is a rom-com, I guess you would say erotic thriller. It was really like anxiety inducing. My heart was racing, especially in the first part of the movie. But overall, a fun watch, and it was unexpectedly solid. 13, we have Frankenstein. I have barely seen any of Guillermo del Toro's filmography, so this was a nice introduction to his style of horror that he does. I enjoyed this thoroughly, specifically part two, which I thought was the better of the two parts. I guess the three parts counting the prelude. I thought Jacob Elordi was pretty solid in this, and this is my first movie that I've ever seen him in, so it was good. I mean, it's hard to play, the makeup monster that he did, and I thought he did a great job. It was a 2.5 hour film, and definitely felt all of the 2.5 hours. It was long, especially because it's a Netflix release. I know it came out in theaters, but watching something at home where you have the ability to pause it and kind of take breaks, for me, that takes away from the viewing experience, and it made it feel longer than it was. I also wish that they used less CGI. I know it's hard with the source material. You have Frankenstein's monster, but it was a little too heavy on the CGI at times. Additionally, I've never read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein or seen any Frankenstein movies, so I don't know how true to the source material this was. But I thought that I can understand why the story is such a classic. I mean, the plot is great. And I don't know how true it was to Shelley, but it was a great plot. Number 12, we have Mickey 17, which is Bong Joon-ho's first film since Parasite, which I think is a bit overrated in the grand scheme of things, but keep that on the deal. But yeah, so if this came out at the end of this year, I think I might have rated it a bit higher. This was like the first movie I saw this year, so it kind of just slid down, just because I kind of, it get lost in the memories at times. But I think Robert Pattinson turned in multiple great performances here as he's playing two people at once, which I love when actors do that. I mean, we'll see later on in the list a great example of it, if you know what I'm saying. I've heard some complaints about his voice that he used to portray the character Mickey. I thought it was funny, and I think this was a really cool concept. It was a good first film back from Bong Joon-ho. And I thought Mark Ruffalo was a pretty funny political caricature. It got a little obvious at times, but it was funny. Number 11, I have Fantastic Four First Steps. I thought that the first half of this movie was so rushed with the storyline and the timeline. Things just move way too fast. A year passed in literally about 10 minutes. And I know there was a lot of talk about Kevin Feige cutting down a lot of this runtime. Hence, it was a shorter movie. And I just wish I could see an extended director's cut because I feel like it was so rushed. The first half in particular. However, the final act was fire and definitely made up for it in the grand scheme of things. I loved Ben's character and I loved Julia Garner as Shala Ball. I think Julia Garner is just such a good actress, and I know some people had some issues with Shala Ball being the Silver Surfer in this and how it relates to how true it is to the source material with the comics, but I don't really care. And then I liked how we got into a peek into Reed's mental health. I think that's cool for especially these superhero movies, getting a deep dive beneath the mask per se, getting it into the character's mental health, which we'll see in another movie later on the list. No spoilers. And then I really like the end credit scene, which is leading up to Avengers Doomsday. And number 10 on the list, I think this might be rated a little too high looking at it as it's in front of me right now, but we have Zootopia 2. I'm going to make a real quick comparison. Let's see how many of you know ball out here. I thought that this, in terms of the casting, was super similar to the 2006 cult classic The Wild, starring Kiefer Sutherland. The mayor's voice in this was the wildebeest from The Wild. Who played it? It was Patrick Warburton. And then there's a Larry the Snake in The Wild and a Gary the Snake in Zootopia 2. So I just wanted to put that out there. I still think the first Zootopia is better. Obviously, that's just a phenomenal movie, but this one is really good. I think it's just such a cool concept, the whole Zootopia world, and it just looks so good with the animation and everything. I also just love the character of Nick Wilde and how Jason Bateman does as the voice actor. I love that character, and I thought that this also did a good job of growing up with its audience. In my theater that I watched it in, there wasn't a single kid there, and the movie came out 10 years ago when we were all kids. All the young adults were kids. But I thought it did a good job of growing up with his audience. And while it is still a kids movie, it touches some more mature, not NSFW themes, but just more adult themes. And they went more in depth there. Number 9, we have Superman. I thought that this was goofy, grand, whimsical, colorful, and that a way that Superman and superhero movies should be. No disrespect to Henry Cavill's films. Now, having said that, there was obviously some very serious political undertones here. In terms of the acting, it was solid all around, particularly from Nicholas Hoult, who I thought had a great 2024. If you watch that video, he's in a few of those in the rankings. I'm a big fan of him, and I think he's on a heater right now. This was my first ever Superman movie I've ever seen, and I would say it was definitely a strong take on the subject matter. And I'm very excited for the DC James Gunn universe. DC actually made a good movie for once. Let's go. Number 8 also could be a little too high on the rankings, but we have The Long Walk. This was a great movie, absolutely exhilarating. It had me dizzy and nauseous, but not in a bad way, but like in the way that the characters were going through. This is also based on the Stephen King novel, as I mentioned a few times now. It's really a graphic film, and almost it's a bit nasty. I'm not gonna lie, it's a bit nasty at times. And the last act in particular was phenomenal. This was a great young cast of actors who were phenomenal. I can't wait to see how each of them move on in their careers, especially the leads. I thought they did a great job. Number 7, a very underrated film, Roof Man, starring Channing Tatum. Now, it was set in 2004, so it was very nostalgic for me with Toys R Us and everything. I haven't heard anything about this in end of year reviews, but this was awesome to me. And it makes it even better that it was based on a true story. I also felt like this could have been even a great show. They did a show instead of a movie, but Channing Tatum killed it. I haven't seen a lot of him. People don't give him a lot of praise as an actor, but I think he has the chops, and this movie showed it for sure. It was in the trailer, I would say, did this movie no justice. I feel a lot of people didn't go see it based on the trailer. It looks way more goofy. I mean, I thought I wanted to see it based on the trailer, but it wasn't well advertised at all. Number 6, we have 28 Years Later. This is elite cinematography. It has one of the most emotional scenes I've ever seen, Memento Mori. And this is difficult to rank in terms of the 28 film series. It's hard to rank against the first one. It's definitely better than the second, and I'm very excited that we have 28 Years Later, A Bone Temple, coming out in this month in January. So I'm very excited for the direction that the franchise is going in, and I'm glad that they did all the filming all at once so that we could, we can have 2 movies basically in under a year, definitely in under 6 months almost. We'll say the Cillian Murphy cameo was a complete ripoff. The fact that they even included that in the trailer was that they should pay me a few bucks for the ticket because there was no Cillian Murphy. He's one of my favorite actors, and he was literally in the movie for 3 seconds. And I also wanted to see more of Aaron Taylor Johnson. Hopefully, we get more of him in the Bone Temple. He's a great actor who's been on a heater. Per my viewing experience of this film, I always get to movies early. Always. I like seeing the trailers, and I just don't like messing around. But for the first time in my life, my butt wasn't in the seat right when it was, supposed to start, and they actually started the movie at that time. The first time in my life. So I missed the early flashback scene. I walked in during it, and I know what happened, but I missed the first minute or two of the movie, and I was so I just couldn't believe it. Number 5, we have Thunderbolts. This is one of the best Marvel cuts in years, especially since the Endgame ended. I think this might have been one of the best Marvel movies since Endgame, to be honest with you. Actually, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, but that's a different video. I love that the Void character design and character as a whole, and I love that they dealt with the mental health issues, like I mentioned with Fantastic Four. And I just thought this was multiple great performances from great actors, and I'm excited to see what direction the Thunderbolts go into the Avengers Doomsday timeline. Okay, top 4. These are all, the past few have been great movies. These are all phenomenal movies. And I will say, I think that this was a much better year for film, in my personal opinion, and my viewing experience, than 2024. This was a great year. We're going to get number 4. I think you guys know kind of the top 4. Maybe one of them might be a surprise, but number 4, One Battle After Another. The acting on this is on a different level. Every single actor is like a legend, and they all killed it. And Leonardo DiCaprio might be the greatest ever. It was also surprisingly super funny. The cinematography and directing, Paul PTA was awesome. Top tier. Sound design, soundtrack really upped the intensity. They really contributed to the feelings you felt when you watched this movie. Had me on edge in a lot of the scenes. Number 3, this one might be a surprise. F1. I loved F1. I freaking loved it. This was absolutely exhilarating. It had me, I'll put the picture up on the screen, the meme, but that's what it had me in the theater. And I was watching this in IMAX. Okay. I got the full experience. So I'm racing myself. This was Brad Pitt, Damson Idris, Javier Bardem as well. I love those actors. Brad Pitt is one of my personal favorites. Damson Idris from Snowfall. If you haven't seen Snowfall, I don't know what you're doing with your life, but he is a phenomenal young talent. Cinematography was phenomenal. Like I said, I watched it in IMAX. Couldn't get any better than that. But yeah, just a great movie. Watching it in theaters was the best you could have done. But if you haven't seen it yet, definitely watch it on your TV at home. Number 2 easily could be number 1. I might have to go back and forth on this later down the line, but number 2 is Marty Supreme. Marty Supreme, American-made movie on Christmas Day. If you haven't seen it, go. It's still in theaters. You have to go. I might go to see it I don't know if it's on IMAX. I didn't see it in IMAX. I wasn't at a theater that had that, but I might have to go check it out. Again, this is a movie that if everything could go wrong, went wrong, but it's just incredible acting, storyline, and characters. The characters are really what draw you in, and the final 5 minutes to me are the perfect wrap up of everything. I really thought that I didn't know where it was going to go because it kind of dug itself into a hole that it just climbed right out of. It was just, to me, it felt perfect ending that I didn't really see coming. I think Timothée Chalamet is the best young actor that we have today. I love everything he's in, as everyone else does. He's so good at marketing. He's really, I think, trying to, save theaters and cinema and film. And I thought Gwyneth Paltrow was phenomenal in this. Kevin O'Leary, not being an actor, all he had to do was play himself. He was great. Odessa A. Zion, this is my first time ever seeing her. She was awesome in this. She played her character perfectly. And, Safdie, they love the stunt casting. NBA legend George Gervin was in this. I don't know if y'all know this. I know I talk about basketball in some of my videos. That was such a cool cameo. I mean, this movie, I can't talk about it enough. And I don't want to get into any spoilers, but I might make a breakdown on this movie. There's just so many plot details. It's so well made. And it's, people are like, I don't want to see a movie about Timothée Chalamet playing ping pong. Dude, it's so much more than that. Great movie. It's the reason we go to theaters. Number 1, you knew what it was going to be. It's Sinners. Is there a better directorial actor duo than Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler in recent years? I mean, everything they make is just amazing, with this being their best ever. This was just a phenomenal movie. I saw it twice in theaters, once on a 70 millimeter IMAX, which is, I think there's only 30 or 50 of them in the world. I'll put a picture up on the screen of how that looks like when you're sitting in the theater. It's insane. But this movie is just there's nothing that hasn't been said about that I can say. I mean, it's just phenomenal acting, phenomenal storyline, original, so original. The music is just phenomenal. I mean, I have some of those songs in my just playlist. Miles Keaton, first ever like real film. He's just amazing. Michael B. Jordan is one of my favorite actors. I love Creed, Black Panther, all his stuff. And there's nothing more that hasn't been said that I could say already. But just a great year for film. I think this is much better than 2024, but I would still suggest checking out my 2024 rankings right here. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this with me. Please like and subscribe, and also drop the comments below. I mean, I know I have some hot takes in here. Let me know what movies I should see that I didn't see already. I know there's a few I didn't get to, and then what you disagreed with and what you agree with. That would be much appreciated. I know I took a little bit of a hiatus from YouTube the past 4 or 5 months, but I'm back. I'm in a creative headspace right now. I got a couple videos on the horizon, so you will be seeing more from me soon. And thank you guys for watching. Peace.
I just wanna ball, mama, I just want it all. I don't care about the law.